As you all probably know by now, these two douchebags behind me were 2 of 8 from a trading group called Atlas Treyding that were charged in a complaint by the Securities and Exchange Committee for committing stock manipulation. Well, I posted a video on this yesterday covering what happened and what the SEC charged them with. You probably want to check that one out before this one if you haven't already, but so much more has come to light. There have been criminal charges pressed by the Department of Justice. There have been whistleblower payments. There have been money seized. There has been property seized. There is so much more to talk about this case that it deserves another video. So hopefully you are excited. Hit like and subscribe if you are. And just before we get into the video, can we talk about this tweet? Zach Morris, this was the guy with over 500,000 subs, probably the most popular guy in the manipulation ring, tweets SEC's most wanted because, of course, douchebag. Dude, look behind you. He's right there. The SEC, no wonder you got caught, bro. I mean, he's right there. And coming back into a little bit of a more serious note here, this is nothing new that we see the SEC charge small pump groups with complaints. And usually what happens, their assets get frozen. The money that the SEC feels like they made from their manipulation ends up being returned back to the SEC. And that's usually the end of it. This story is getting crazy in that the Department of Justice is indicting these Atlas admins with up to 35 years in prison. That doesn't normally happen. And now the biggest complaint I continue to see from the defendants of Atlas, it's no longer that they didn't do it. If you saw my video yesterday, if you've read the report from the Securities and Exchange Commission, it feels pretty confident that they did do it. The biggest complaint tends to be, okay, well, why is the Securities and Exchange Commission not going after this person, this group, this political figure, this bank for manipulating stocks as well? Well, the law here is that they have to prove intent of manipulation. They have to prove that a group or an individual has the intent to front load a position, pump it, and then use the pump as exit liquidity. And the ability to prove intent is next to impossible if not for a whistleblower, if not for an internal rat. And as we looked at the SEC complaint yesterday, there are recorded Discord conversations, Discord voice chats that the SEC has a hold of. So it seems pretty evident that there was an internal snitch, an internal whistleblower in Atlas that was handing these things, or ended up handing these things over to the SEC. Well, what I reported on yesterday was released to the public on December 13th. Well, on December 12th, it came out that the SEC awards more than $20 million to a whistleblower. The Securities and Exchange Commission today announced an award of more than $20 million, to a whistleblower who provided information and assistance that significantly contributed to a successful enforcement action. Of course, it's on the government's, it's part of the government's job to very much protect the identity of this whistleblower. So we don't know for sure it's this case, and we'll probably never know who it actually was. There's ideas flying all over Twitter. And if you have them, maybe leave them on Twitter. Let's not start a witch hunt in my comments. But, we're never really going to know. But this came out the day before the release of this this Atlas case. And if you read down here, whistleblower awards can range from 10 to 30% of the money collected when the monetary sanctions exceed $1 million. Well, they were paid $20 million, actually more than $20 million. And the 8 men indicated for $114 million in securities fraud. That's about 20%, right in the middle of this range that it says whistleblowers can get paid out. So it very much sounds like there was an internal whistleblower, which is very much why Atlas is getting caught here, right? There was a whistleblower on the inside. That's why they're the ones getting charged, and maybe a lot of people that you think should be charged aren't. But if we scroll through this quickly, I'm not going to talk too much on this because I want to jump into the actual court document. That's where the most of this video is going to come from. But here's obviously the 8 people charged. They got their Twitter handles, their Discord handles. And down here is the important part. If convicted, each defendant faces a maximum penalty of 25 years in prison for conspiracy to commit securities fraud, and each charge count of securities fraud. Constantine, that is Zach Morris, that is the guy from the first photo, the guy who said is pretty much the most popular in all of this, also faces a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison if convicted of engaging in unlawful monetary transactions. And we're going to get into what that means. There's a lot to deep dive into that, but let's just go ahead now and jump into the actual court document. The one we touched on yesterday was a complaint from the Securities and Exchange Commission. Like I said, those happen. I mean, I don't want to say they're common, but that's normally what you see happen to pump groups. The SEC files a legal complaint. That's how they get their assets frozen. That's how they get the money back. Everything sort of goes hush-hush after that. This is why this story continues to develop into something crazy, that now the DOJ, the Department of Justice, is taking federal criminal charges out against them. So let's go ahead and read at least some of the number one here. I'm not going to touch too much on kind of what happened, because I touched on that a lot in yesterday's video. But from in or around January 2020 to in or around April 22nd, the defendants, you know them, engaged in a scheme to pump and dump securities based on false and misleading information and material omissions about those securities that the defendants published on social media platforms. So we know this. The SEC filed the same exact complaint that they were charging them with stock market manipulation. The Department of Justice is not doing much different. If we go ahead and scroll down, this is just listing out all the defendants. If we go ahead and scroll down to number 13 here, section 13, the defendants pumped the price of securities by posting on Twitter and Atlas Trading Discord the following types of false and misleading messages. So now we get a little bit more into what they were posting. Messages representing that a defendant intended to hold the security for a swing or longer term as opposed to a short term or day trade. So we know that they were entering trades, tweeting, and then immediately exiting after the tweet, even though they were saying, oh, I'm going to hold this overnight, or whatever they were saying. Messages representing that a defendant joined another defendant in purchasing the security or adding to a position. We saw yesterday that when they were tweeting that they're adding, they were quite often immediately selling after the pump that created in the low float stock. Messages concerning a purported price target price target for the security that was significantly higher than the price at which the security was currently trading. Okay, false PTs. Messages concerning due diligence about a security that are fake, and these messages were false and misleading. Yes, so that's really kind of getting into what they knew was going on. Now, if we go down here to section 15, this is quite fun. This is when, okay, hey, they've been caught. Okay, we think they're doing stock manipulation, or not even think. We know because they have their transaction history. The SEC and now, of course, the DOJ as well has their transaction history. They know that right after they tweeted and caused a pump in a stock that they were selling. So they know they're creating stock manipulation. Now, this is getting into lies they told in order to get more followers to believe that they weren't manipulating stocks. So that's pretty what this first paragraph says. On or about November 10th, 2020, PJ Matlock falsely maintained on Atlas Trading Discord that he did not post plays so I can scalp 2 cents on my followers. That's what they want you to believe. That's literally, like I said, what they were doing. I wouldn't be here if I did that. Once again, that is what they were doing. My goal is to help this group make money and to make this group successful. I'll let you stew on that your own. And I'm not going to read the rest of them. They're basically all the same. This is just proof that they are straight up we know they're manipulating and they're straight up lying to you about manipulating, trying to make it feel like they're there to help you. And that's why I'm making these videos. I want to hammer home that this stuff does happen. I think a lot of new traders come into the market, they see these huge numbers, they see these huge followings, and they cannot wrap their head around the fact that people will lie to them. And it's not Atlas is being caught here, like I said in the beginning, largely because of the whistleblower, but I can promise you there are other people doing this. Just be very careful who you follow. Have some common sense about who you follow. Down here, section 19, I also found very interesting. Knight, so this is the guy who ran the podcast, who was charged with funneling people into Atlas, expressed the following views during a recorded conversation or on about February 24th. I mention a stock, the less likely I get involved whenever all of Atlas gets a class action lawsuit. I'm playing this extremely smart for the very long term. If you don't think all these fuckers go to jail or at least get sued, excuse my language, but I'm not going to bleep it, you are crazy. PJ is posting McLaren's $10 million accounts, green 400 days in a row. Do you guys remember that? That's like, I mean, we all knew it was bullshit, but did you guys follow PJ Matlock on Twitter at all or see people posting about it? He claimed to be green 400 days in a row. Every purchase over $10,000 immediately gets turned to the SEC, and it's like everything he fucking buys. Just wait and see, it's market manipulation. So this guy knew it was, and he said it in an interview. He was part of the conspiracy, but he knew what was going on, and here's just more internal proof that they knew what they were doing. And they have proof, the Department of Justice and the SEC both now have proof that they knew what they were doing. And that's where this gets so intense. If I go down here to, what I'm getting into now. So this is and there's a lot of these, and there's more of these in the SEC charge as well. And I'm not going to dive too deep into it. It actually might be a separate video because I want these videos to just touch about what's happening right now. Kind of how they did it might be a separate part on this channel. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. But this is SXTC. That's the ticker. And if I scroll down here to sections 24 through 26, I want to read, on or about September 14th, 2020, between approximately 9:09 and 9:31, Matlock purchased 146,000 shares of SXTC at the price of 25 cents a share. On the same day at approximately 9:32, so a minute after he was done buying, posted the following false and misleading tweet while omitting that he intended to sell his own shares. There is the federal crime. He intended to sell his own shares. That's why it's so hard to catch stock manipulators. Even if you think they are manipulating, hell, as you saw at the beginning of the video, if you can somehow prove manipulation of a group or of an individual, let the SEC know. They pay very well to whistleblowers. But that's why this story's so crazy, because we got the whistleblower. We got these dumbasses admitting in public what they were doing. That's why this story is so crazy. We get to see from the inside how one of these manipulation rings really works. Anyway, this was the tweet. SXTC added 100,000 here. Extremely oversold RSI. This one recently, here you go. Oversold RSI. Get some technical analysis in there. On this one, recently granted NASDAQ extension to get the price over $1. Insiders own 51% of this. Great setup for a big runner. A break of 30 takes us to 40, then 52, then 61. Love the setup here. By approximately 9:38, 6 minutes after, so he bought the shares, he finished buying the shares at 9:31, tweeted at 9:32 that he liked it going to 30, 40, 52, and 61. Within 6 minutes after that tweet, he had sold all of his shares at 28 cents a share. He liked it breaking 30 to 40 to 52 to 61. He sold it at 3 cents of profit, not even 3 full cents. He bought it at 257. He sold it at 280. That's 0.23 cents of profit. And what did he just say? I'm not going to scroll back up. I'll lose my place. You remember when he said earlier, I'm not here to get 2 cents of profit out of my gains from you all. I wouldn't be here if I did that. That's literally what he did. That's literally what he did. And that's why this story is so crazy. And let me scroll through this. So this is SXTC. TRCH, it's another example. This is a full list of how they pumped these stocks. And I will link this in the description down below if you want to read through this. And I'm probably going to make a video deep diving how this stuff was done in the future as well. But GTT, another ticker they did it on. And I hope none of you, I really do. There might be some of you that are looking at these tickers like, holy shit, man, I got caught in a dump in those tickers. Hopefully not, but SURF, another one. ALZN, another one. UPC, another one. These are all stocks that they're manipulating. ABVZ, another one. I don't even know how many I've read. CEI, this was a big one. This was a huge, obviously they pumped it for a couple pennies because that's what they do, but it ended up turning the stock into a huge momentum runner that ended up having a massive, massive, massive red day that crushed everybody. A lot of retail lost a lot of money in this one. I was doing my best on Twitter and on Twitch because I was streaming at this time. I was calling these people out on Twitch over on my live stream extremely hard in 2020 while all this was going on in 2021. While all this was going on, I was calling these people out because at that point, I had been trading for like 5.5 years. And anyone that's been trading for probably even 6 months could see what the hell was going on. But what these people do is they grab onto the very new traders that don't know any better yet. So a lot of us saw what was going on. Hey, these people are pump and dump manipulators. They're pumping the shit out of CEI. Don't touch it. These people suck. They're douchebags. I'll say it again. I don't care. CEI, a lot of retail got crushed in this one. I know they did, and I feel so bad for it. DATS, another one. I'm just scrolling through. Look at, these are all examples, and look at how much I have to scroll. Look at how much information the DOJ has on each on the pumps and the conversations they were having and the shares they were buying and selling on each one of these stocks. BBI, another one. Okay, and that's all the ones that that's all the ones that they list in this document. That's not even necessarily all the ones that they did it on. And now we get to the charges. So this is what the DOJ is charging these 8 Atlas admins for. Paragraphs 1 through 114, this is 115, so the entire previous document. Indictment are realigned and incorporated by reference as though fully set forth herein, from at least in or around January 2020 through June 2022, in the Southern District of Texas. Elsewhere, the defendants, this is all 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, all 8 of the admins that are being charged did knowingly and intentionally, that is, with the intent to advance the conspiracy, combine, conspire, and agree with other individuals, known and unknown, to commit an offense against the United States, namely securities fraud. That is fucked. I once again, excuse my language, but that's why I'm posting this video. The stuff that they're being charged with and the way, and I love it. The way the Department of Justice is going after these people. They're not just having to return their assets that they made, and who knows if the SEC even made them return all their assets, just the ones that they know of. They're not just being made to return those and then allowed to go on about their merry lives. I mean, they're being charged with some real stuff. This is not a joke. I mean, they're facing all 8 of them are facing 25 years in prison with Zach Morris facing an extra 10 years. I'm going to get to that to a second. They're all facing extremely crazy penalties. And I'm interested to know, do you guys hope they get 25 years in prison? Do you guys hope the judge in Houston, whoever's overlooking this trial, throws the book at them, makes an example out of them? I'm not going to give my opinion on that just because you know how giving opinions on the internet as a streamer goes, but let me know in the comment section down below. Anyway, Jesus, look at list again. I could have just done this, I guess. It lists all the stocks that they knowingly manipulated. And if they know that they manipulated these, you know there's probably 100 others that they were trying to or making a couple pennies off of in the background as well. So, It was the purpose of the conspiracy for the defendants and their co-conspirators, known and unknown to the grand jury, to unlawfully enrich themselves by pumping and dumping securities of the above described issuers and others. So there they go. They realize too that, hey, these are the ones we know about, through false and misleading posts and material omissions on Twitter and the Atlas Treyding Discord. So that's count 1. Counts 2 through 11, they're facing 11, all 8 of them are facing 11 federal charges from the Department of Justice. I'm going to say it again. These 8 people from Atlas Treyding Group are facing 11 federal charges. I mean, it's crazy. It's really, let me just make sure it's all 8 of them again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, wait, 1, 2. They kept Knight out of this one. So Knight is not in this one because Daniel Knight was the runner of the podcast, and the podcast was helping funnel people into this. But he, from what I can tell, has not been found to, I guess, actually be taking the trades himself. So he's not actually getting charged with whatever counts 2 through 11 are. So this is just the other 7. On or about the date specified in the charts below. Okay. Did knowingly and with the intent to defraud, execute, and attempt to execute. So this is why Knight's left out, because this is where the counts 2 through 11 is the securities fraud, right? This is where they were actually taking part in the stock market, committing fraud in the stock market. A scheme and artifice to defraud any person in connection with any security of an issuer with the class of securities registered under Section 12. Okay. Securities Exchange Act. This is just listing out the laws they broke. And this is, look at they have it tabled which defendant, so which Atlas member was part of which stock's pump. This is interesting to look at. I'm not going to sit here and read it all, but you all can look at this yourself. They know who was pumping which stock, or not who was pumping. Sorry, because Knight was part of who was pumping. Count 1 was of pumping manipulation stocks. Counts 2 through 11 are actually taking the trades, and that's why it's counts 2 through 11 because of all the stocks they traded. I'm taking this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2 through 11. They have been found guilty of committing committing securities fraud on these 11 tickers. And these are the defendants who are charged with each ticker. Very interesting. Now, count 12. This is the last count, and this one is only for Mr. Constantine. This is only for Zach Morris. This is for... Let me just read it. I was going to try to Eli Fife, but let me just read it. Let me not insult your intelligence. Maintained an account ending in 9349 at the brokerage 1, which he made to use to trade securities, including securities described in this indictment. So they have his account. They know what his account is. They know the transactions that were happening in that account. He also maintained an account ending at 7878 at bank account. They also have his bank account, so they know what he was spending his money on as it was coming into this bank account. And if I continue scrolling down, did knowingly, so this is Edward, freaking Edward. Zach Morris did knowingly attempt to engage in monetary transaction by, through, and to a financial institution affecting interstate commerce and criminally derived property of a value greater than $10,000. That is a transfer and withdrawal of funds, to wit, a wire transfer in the amount of approximately $3.45 million from the bank account payable to titles. This is listing property titles. So what he did was he was trying to get the money that he knew. Once again, he knew there's multiple cases of them admitting they knew that they were doing this. That's why the DOJ can come after him in this account. He knew he acquired this money illegally, and he took that illegal money and went and purchased a bunch of property. They have 9 properties listed here. And as you can see here, forfeiture allegations. In the event of a violation of Title 18, Code Section, blah, 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 United States of America shall forfeit any property, real or personal, which constitutes derived from traceable such offenses. So they have to give the money back, the $114 million that they know of. And you remember PJ Matlock, almost all of them were flexing Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens. They were flexing them on the internet. These people weren't very smart, right? They're not very smart people, of course. But you can promise you live in the Houston area, check your local repos. There might be a couple of Ferraris and McLarens in them. If you can find your local federal repo auction, look for these guys' exotic vehicles. And not only that, but Edward Constantine, once again, Zach Morris, in the conviction of violation of Title 18, once again, if found guilty, they're not guilty yet, although you can't say it's looking good reading through all this. I'm not going to say anything, because if you're not guilty, you're not guilty. But is charged in count 12 of the indictment, the illegal laundering of money through real estate. The United States of America shall forfeit any property, real or personal, involved in such offense. This is where they list property subject to forfeiture. And I want to just take a minute to look through. So there's about 9 properties here, and I think a little over half of them, I think 5 of them are just land. But I want to go ahead and look at the houses that he was buying with manipulated money. He was manipulating retail traders, making all this money off of doing it, and he was buying these houses. He was living this lifestyle. He was attempting to hide his profits, as foretold in count 12 of the DOJ document we just read. He was trying to hide his profits in real estate, but look at these houses he was buying, about $1.7 million. These are all listed directly out of the DOJ document. $3.3 to $3.8 million, and they're all in the same sort of area of Texas. $500,000 if we click through quickly. And I want you all to look at this, and it makes me mad. And I want you all to look through at this and be upset, especially if you were part, unfortunately, of getting hung up in any of these pump and dumps, but just what these people were doing to you. And not only were they doing it to you, they were flaunting it in front of you on Twitter. And of course, they were dumb enough to continue doing that to the point that they got caught. But look at these houses they were buying. Look at what they were able to turn the profit from manipulating retail traders into, trying to hide their profit into real estate like this. And he is facing, I don't know if you guys caught this part, but 4 counts 1 through 11, and that all the other 8 are being charged of. They face up to 25 years in prison. For count 12, which is just Zach Morris, which is hiding all his money into these addresses, he faces an extra 10 years on top. So Zach Morris faces up to 35 years in prison. The other 7, Atlas Atmans, / the guy who ran the podcast face up to 25 years in prison. The United States gives notice it will seek a money judgment up to $114 million against the defendants. So they're really coming back after the money, really coming back after their property. So not only is it just an SEC complaint against Atlas, it is now a Department of Justice federal indictment, and they face up to 35 years in prison. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below.